Hello out there in YouTube land, it's Mikey P, ready for some more Only Fools and Horses. Today we're going to watch the Yellow Peril. I'm watching it on Netflix. This is season 2, episode 5. So if you get your DVDs or whatever other format you want to watch it in, and we start in 3, 2, 1, play. And the classic music, always giving us the BBC with the fireworks to start with. And here we go, the famous tune, sung by John Sullivan, who had to have a few drinks before he could sing it. Now, there's, I think there's still the original credits. David Jason looking young, dapper. Rodney, Nicholas Lyndhurst not looking so dapper. And of course Leonard Pierce in his second season. I think the second season is where things really took off for the Yellow Peril, just going up Nelson Mandela House there. The Golden Lotus. I think many Chinese restaurants were called that back in the day. Mr. Chin. Now, this actor I haven't seen in anything else odd, but I'm sure he's been in other stuff, but Deal Boy always asking for cash. Cash in the hand, that's your motto, Mr. Derrick. Now, I think that obviously David Jason by now is really getting into the stride of the character. This is, like I say, this is where the series really took off. The second season is when I started watching it, and I think it's where the public generally started really picking up. I think the viewing figures went really high, and this is where it started, and it just shot up from here on out and never really looked back. Of course, we're going to get the first view of the mother's gravestone in this. I didn't even know they made gravestones out of fiberglass. The cat, of course, on the side. It's a setup for the joke later, but you don't really. Although, why there'd be a cat sitting on the desk of a Chinese restaurant? There he is, the out of order thing. I mean, the health inspectors would be on that straight away, wouldn't they? But yes, that's a favourite Del Boy thing. There's always a way of getting free parking, even though there's no lines or anything on that road. But there we go. Joan Mavis Trotter fell asleep 1964. So when this went out, about 1982, that would have been 18 years. And of course, this thing is made of fiberglass, and it turns up again as one door closes. I think that might be the last time we see it. So I'm assuming they either lost it or broke the prop, and if it's made of fiberglass, then yeah. But of course he drags Rodney down, and Rodney hardly ever knew his mother. But he has to go to appease Del, or he'd just be listening to him whining, and you know how it goes, peeps, you know how it goes. Because Rodney's had a bit of a haircut here, not quite so long as his usual cut. Always wearing that camouflage coat in these early seasons, when he didn't wear that rubbish suit that he always had on. Del Boy here in his sort of early 80s look. Smart, but sort of got a Terry McGann from Minder sort of jacket on, darker. Can't really place Del Boy's look. He's sort of like a 1930s, 40s gangster with sort of early 80s clothes of a sort of man about town, but a sort of cheap man about town. Apparently they had all the jewellery David Jason wears sacrificial. Brilliant. I mean, I don't know what you mean, sacrificial, sentimental, sarcastic. Très bien ensemble. See, the French phrases were there from day one. Well, see, the first season, I think I haven't done any of them, but for me, the first season of Only Fools and Horses is like the first season of Blackadder. I mean, it's a lot better than that, but it's just making its way. Whereas this is it. This is one of the pinnacles for me, season 2. Of course, David Jason was balding by this point. So he's got a hairpiece on the top of his head, the crown. I think they dyed his hair dark. and was playing Granville in Open All Hours at the same time. And you see these two can be good dramatic actors as well, because they can do these sentimental, and you do believe it, you tend to get sucked in. I don't know if Nicholas Lyndhurst was doing Butterflies at the same time. You know, I swear that he wore that coat in Butterflies. I might be wrong. You know, let me know in the comments below if you think, but it's possible he wore that in Butterflies. I've got this image in my mind of him sitting around the table with Jeffrey Palmer and Craig, what's her name? Something Craig. And he's wearing that. But of course he speaks with his normal accent in Butterflies, which is more upper class, obviously. But here he's doing, I mean, they're both doing their great Cockney. Yeah. Talking about their mum, Del Boy always sees his mum through these rose-coloured glasses, and later other people have made reference to his mum. And it seems like she was quite a game girl, let's put it that way, you know. And of course Rodney's father, I think it's beyond doubt now that it was Freddy the Frog. He turns up in The Frog's Legacy. See, I would do, if you want me to do some of these extended episodes, I'll try, but I think you might suffer from silence, because it's always hard to talk all the way through. Left him outside. I mean, that's a sort of similar to a Steptoe reference, where they sit him outside of pubs back in the old days with a biscuit or a drink, you know, leave them outside while they're in the pub having fun. But, I mean, why he was outside and just leave him with Grandad? Because I assume Grandad would have lived with them. And maybe even Reg. But I assume he'd buggered off by then. And was working at the medical establishments. So this is where Dale slips it in about the Chinese takeaway. And of course he's bought some paint he needs to get rid of. And I think that sometimes slips by people that... See, there he is, Rodney's realised he's got to paint this Chinese takeaway. And they do a couple of episodes. In the next season they do Denzel's out. You think they would have learnt their lesson, wouldn't you? In Who's a Pretty Boy. But I assume John Sullivan must have known someone that had told him these decorating stories, so he made them into good plots. Because they're very... I mean, John Sullivan, I mean... He wrote, this is his sort of masterwork, if you like, because he did a Taxi series, I think, and Just Good Friends and Citizen Smith. But for me, they're nowhere near as good as this. I mean, I don't know what it was. Everything gelled with Only Fools and Horses. I mean, there's an even episode of Citizen Smith called Only Fools and Horses, but Citizen Smith and Just Good Friends and Taxi, Roger, whatever it was called, they're all like a million miles in quality away from this. I don't, and even Rockin' Chips, you know, the prequel to, there's just something magic about Only Fools and Horses. You can't go wrong. I mean, they did it. I didn't like the last trilogy, the final trilogy. I think they should have left it where they got the watch. But this is obviously filmed on film of some kind. I'm going that this is actual film, because if this was video, it'd have that horrible shiny 80s video quality that you see in some of the sitcoms when they film outside. Because when they go to studio, it's the video cameras, and you can see that, and it's sort of to the detriment of the quality of the film. Because I think kids today will look at that and go, cool, this is old and rubbish. But when you watch this bit, when they're on location outside the gravestone, it looks really good. I mean, it's just a film, and then like you watch the Hullen back, and it's great. They should have, I don't know if they can't tamper with the video stock footage and make it all look like this, so that a younger audience maybe get rid of the canned laughter, so that we can get that sort of modern feel to it. Because I think it'd still pass. I mean, some of the references you're going to lose, but the comedy itself is probably forever. Will never stop. And here he goes, Del Boy trying to palm off his, and now Rodney's doing his own bit of conning. £2 million. Give it in cash, there'd be a lot of that. There'd be a big pile of cash then, wouldn't there? But, of course, now Rodney's going to go deep sea diving. He's going to get his deep sea diver's watch. Here we go, Del Boy knows. So this time, I think David Jason obviously was playing Granville in open all hours, which is okay. Farcical stuff with Ronnie Barker, his mentor. So we get the first hint of the emotional blackmail that Rodney's going to give, always that Dell uses on Rodney all the time. And of course, Del Boy, David Jason, the actor, was a daredevil. He did a lot of scuba diving. I think he did hang gliding, which would have probably come in handy when he did T for 3 in season 5. Here we go. Yeah, David Jason's hair doesn't look as, it doesn't look as dark. But obviously, here we are at the Golden Lotus again. And as soon as we go inside, it becomes a. Does that meter moved since he's turned up the first time? It's in a different place, isn't it? I'm sure they've. Oh no, there it is. Why is he putting in on the other meter then? It's like he parked across 2 meters. And there he is, Leonard Pierce, season 2. Older than he said he was to get the part. Oh, Rodney put it on the right meter. He looked like he headed towards the other meter. Came back to this one. And Del Boy has conned Mr. Chin into having this painted because he's got. That doesn't look like the same cat that was on the counter earlier. The grey cat that was on there earlier was a lot. Yeah, it was grey. This is black. That was black. So number 39, that old tradition of restaurants cooking cat. And here Del Boy's going to nick some cash. There's nothing in there worth taking, so he doesn't. That cat looked alarmed about something. Yeah, that ladder does it. And here, obviously we're back on a set. Looks like, I don't know about the 4-4 in this case. I assume this is in front of the audience, but the camera angles are different. So that's the pits. It is the most disgusting. They didn't even get the pots and pans off the walls. I don't know if I'd eat from a Chinese restaurant like that, because it looks like something from the 1920s, doesn't it? It's filthy. And that fridge, is that a fridge back there? Looks like a early bubonic, brilliant. Yeah. And of course Dale's going to go away and he wants to use some of the paint himself for other reasons. The master bedroom. Now if I use some sarcasm, that a telly he's brought in there with him. He brought a telly in there with him, hasn't he? He's brought a portable telly so he can watch the bloody telly while he's cleaning. But that's a good idea. And the little pots. And of course Dale Boy doesn't even, and he's wiping the grease all over Rodney. Nice bit of physical. See, David Jason was always great at the physical stuff. He's got grease all over his hands, all fat. And he's wiping it all over Rodders, as he did just a minute ago. Oh, the great explanation's coming up now. I suppose you could say, in some ways, Grandad and Rodney are similar characters. One's young and one's up. Trim your brush up. And Rodney was going to do that, wasn't he? Trim your brush up, Sink Point. Yeah, see, you pour them in a big tin, the most logical way. After series 5, Del Boy was really sharp, and 6 onwards, he becomes a bit dumber. His intelligence drops. Rodney's comes up, Del Boy's drops, and that's it forevermore. And I think that's because Ray Butt left the end of season 5, Frog's Legacy sort of time. Oh, there he goes. They came from me. So they're stolen, aren't they? Are they stolen, Del Boy? Do we think that bankrupt stock and that joke will come back later? Trust me, you can't trust Del. Oh no, Rodney is where. I think I see him in this coat a few times. And Mr. Chin. And of course Del Boy wearing his sheepskin thing. I don't think Leonard Pierce ever wore anything different. He always wore that sort of pyjamas under his Mac and his long grey Mac thing. You the painter, I'm the apprentice. Brilliant. I'm his apprentice, and of course the apprentice is normally the younger chap. But of course, come the time of Who's a Pretty Boy, Albert didn't even come out. They didn't even use him for any part. Oh no, of course he wasn't. Sorry, was still Leonard Pierce, wasn't it? I should know better. I'm the aficionado. He doesn't even know what colour. You think Del would have opened... I mean, I know it makes a good joke, but you think he'd have opened the tin to have a look. And of course, he's now got to bluff the Chinese chap. It's still... This is great stuff. I mean, David Jason, he's got to be a great... I mean, he's a great actor. Class. It's a shame he never got much more drama, because I mean, I liked him in Porterhouse Blue when he aged up and played an old sort of caretaker, sort of I don't know what you'd call him really. It's a Tom Sharp, and Tom Sharp's funny, but yeah. And then of course he played Pop Larkin, which was another similar to Del Boy title. Yellow, there you go, gold. Are you illiterate? Which I think he trying to mean he's colourblind, but there you go. Which is an illiterate for a start. But really all three actors, I mean especially Leonard Pierce, are in their massive swing at this point. I mean, series 2, 3, I think that's a massive peak as far as scripts, and 4 is good as well. 5, yeah, don't like the Royal Flush. I think that's the worst Christmas episode of all. Don't like Fail Extraction that much. But yeah, this is the health inspector that called him, which was obviously Del Boy doing a voice to try and con him into getting it painted. He'd be in big trouble, John, which of course Del Boy used to use a lot back then. So of course we're on it. I mean, Leonard Pierce back there just looking gormless, because obviously somebody up there wonder who that anonymous phone caller could have been, Del. That was a bit quick, but there you go. Chow Ming, which I don't know what it means, but Del Boy being patronising. But of course that's a sign of the times. He would have been there's no racism there. I mean, he's trying to befriend him and be nice to him. So, I mean, yeah, he's conning him, but he cons everybody, Del Boy. So he's going to con his brother and his granddad out of some money later on. So you can't really say there was any kind of racial thing going on, except the fact that it's a Chinese restaurant. Yeah, a little dabble do ya. Of watering down the paint, which is probably a good idea coming to the conclusion of this. I wonder if this actually happened to one of John Sullivan's mates, because I mean it's a feasible thing, isn't it? I mean, John Sullivan did write from life, so these old granddad's got to clean it up as well. The two tellies. Leonard Pierce's two tellies. I suppose the audience is there, so the two tellies just foreground. And the only episode, I think, that they've ever closed this off is in Hullenbach, where they had to have, which is all filmed without an audience anyway. So I think they played it on the cinema in front of an audience. But of course, when you do it in front of an audience, you're restricted in your camera angle, so it's always front. It's always front, and I wonder. I mean, the bar's not there, is it, in this episode? I don't know when the bar came in. That must have been 3 or 4. I don't think the wallpaper changed much. Yeah, the flat looks pretty much as it did for a long time there. And that cabinet, I mean, that was always there. They must have kept that forever. The brown one and the one in the bathroom, the kitchen. There's the Missoula, the old-fashioned £10 notes. And of course, they're both going to get rubbish money for this. Those old 20s, those old 10s. Oh, the days, eh? God. I miss them. They were a lot bigger as well. I think they're about a third bigger than they are now, if that, a bit, you know. Thought you'd winked it out of him in the end. Oh yeah, of course, Trigger's going to turn up soon, obviously. With some more paint that you might want. But I mean, it's well constructed. I mean, they could say this was a mid-season sort of slower episode, but I don't think so. I think it works really well. £40 for all that work. I mean, yeah, I suppose it's all right back then. And now Del Boy's going to tell him not to take it in the water. This deep sea diver's what. like it's just a gimmick. It's not real. Obviously, it's not real, but now he's nicked his chair. Why do they have 3 chairs there? They only have 2. Don't get it in the water. Now, I think that Ray Butt, who produced this, was a Cockney in real life, and that's how David Jason and Rodney and Lyndhurst, they actually picked up their accent from him, I think. Because I think David Jason would mimic him. And when he left at the end of Frog's Legacy, and the other guy came in and did it, he didn't have that reference anymore. So you notice that season 6, Del Boy, David Jason's accent changes slightly. It's not quite as London as it is now. It's not as authentic, it slips. So yeah, watch Dates and Yuppie Love, and there we go, and you'll see the accent slips a bit. And of course Trigger wearing blue again, like he would later on with his blue suits. Classic days ahead, there, go. Where he would wear his blue suit in the comic relief joke in Dates, yeah. My uncle used to wear a blue suit to weddings and stuff, so strange correlation. He wasn't unlike Roger Lloyd Pack in looks as well, so I don't know whether he watched Only Fools and Horses and thought that's a good look, but not me. This is the age of the train. Of course, they're completely wrong with it. Even though it's a funny joke, it's not related to the paint at all. Because the paints back in the day were blue, I think, with the yellow stripe along them. The paint signs in tunnels. I think it'd be a similar colour to Rodney's t-shirt, but a lot brighter. And of course, everyone knows that it's luminous paint. How can you? And it's Granddaddy works it out. You know, signs in tunnels. How can you see a sign in a tunnel? Oh, and this is, he used to do these diatribes, Del Boy, in the earlier episodes. Always used to like work out an explanation to his con, like justifying his con, you know. Justifying that stealing this paint from British Rail was a good idea because he'd make some elaborate thing like he's doing now, saying like, we'll be giving back people because they have to hire security guards to look after the paint and all that. I mean, it's complete madness, but it convinces them. Obviously convinces Leonard Pierce, Grandad, and sort of convinces Rodney because Rodney was never the greatest. I mean, he's got a sort of intelligence, but he's not a genius by any means. And, I mean, Trigger, just has to stand there looking down. Roger Lloyd Pack's a great actor as well. I mean, he's been so, I've seen him obviously he was in Harry Potter, and he pops up in other programmes. Always playing a different. I think he got a bit typed from playing Trigger, which was bad. Not as bad as it was for the rest of these actors. They'll always be associated with this. But even Nicholas Lyndhurst moved. See, he's trying to argue against the paint, but he can't. Looks a bit sort of James Bond, that watch. Or Roger Moore, Live and Let Die, sort of. Maybe, or I swear I've seen it in a Bond film. But Bond films, probably BBC can buy the props cheap after. But Del Boy's got the old classic digital watch going on there from back in the day. Jam on it. Classic. Here we go, the denouement. We're going to get the result, the final act of the farce. Is the fact that they're going to be a luminous paint. Which is going to be a sort of double whammy ending for this episode, because here he goes, luminous. I thought you do. And of course he's going to say, what do you think I was? Physics, psychic, for all you, if there's any Americans listening to this and want the translation. But Del Boy would always make these mistakes, physics, psychic, and it's Mr. Chin on the phone, perfect timing, of course. But because it's basically a stage play. You could, like they've done the musical now. Why they made it into a musical? Because you could jam a few episodes together and make a great stage show. Only Fools and Horses. Not a musical. A proper stage show. So sit down before I knock you down. Some violence there that I don't suppose would be allowed anymore. But there you go. Hello, Mr. Chin. Here we go. Great. Now, what did they do here? Did they just use one wall? It looks like a similar set. And he's got his big rape. Yeah, that's it. That is the same set. And they put... I don't know what they've done. They've obviously used paint, but they've lighted it. They've super lighted the yellow. Brilliant. Yeah. It just looks so bright. It's fantastic. And of course, the denouement to this is that Mr. Chin wants them to paint their front room in it. Because, of course, he's the stereotype being that he's a tight Chinese man. And he's going to want his front room to be, he doesn't have to use light bulbs and stuff, I'm sure. Yeah. Because he doesn't want his money back, he wants him to paint his front room in it. Energy saving paint. Now that's thinking on your feet, because that's a good answer from Dale Boy. So he will have that paint, but now he realises his next mistake, the next error he's made. What a plonker, Dale Boy, what a plonker. You and your stupid paint. Yeah. He did it in good faith though, Rodney, he did it in good faith. It's classic. Now they got to go, and then of course some more physical acting from Dave because he wants to strangle him or punch him, and you're a fool, you're a fool. Still a good. Of course, they obviously trust Trigger because they left him there. I don't think Trigger would ever steal from him. He's like a brother to him, really, another brother. Because even though obviously Dale Boy cons Trigger quite a lot in his early days, he's still. Well, of course, Trigger got dumber and dumber as we went along. But here we are, and we know where we are. We're at the graveyard. And of course, I like this. I mean, this is clever. I mean, they've obviously got a yellow light pointing up at these three to make it look like, but there it is. I mean, they're obviously just shining yellow lights on it again to make it look that bright at night. But it's a brilliant image. It's the main flight path to Heathrow in a minute. We'll get classic. But look at that. That's brilliant. I mean, I'm sure this must have happened. I'm sure John Sullivan picked this up from someone. I mean, I don't think there's one dud in season 2 of Only Fools and Horses. The only one I don't like is the long legs of the law when he goes with the policewoman. But because it's a bit slow and I don't like, it just doesn't gel for me. But I think every episode of season 2 is a classic. And now is Dale Boy trying to justify it all as we go to the climax. Because he's trying to say it looks fantastic or something, and I do as I want. And of course it comes down to the fact that he's going to put it down to vandals. But again, I think this is a classic episode of Only Fools and Horses. Don't know the ratings at the time, but I think we're knocking 11 million, which is a good audience for a sitcom in early 80s, especially in the second season. Put it down to vandals, that's it, and hooligans, they paint it. We've got a brilliant episode. See, we talked through that fine. I mean, tell me in the comments below if you want me to do a longer episode, but like I say, there'll probably be some silences because, I can't maintain it as much as I'd like, but a classic episode, of Only Fools and Horses, and I hope you leave a like and subscribe, tell all your friends that I'm a fantastic commentator. But anyway, I hope you had a great time, just as I did, with Only Fools and Horses, the Yellow Peril. And I hope to hear and get back up and upload some more soon. Thanks for listening. Take care. And I think at that point we are out.